Everyone, hey, it's Anders here at the Baking Steel Studio, live from Grand Rapids. Today, we are making stuffed crust pizza. It's a new one for us. We haven't done it yet. It's amazing, simple. Let's jump right into it. Let's go into our ingredients first. We made our 72-hour dough recipe. I made it in 24 hours, right? So now what we're gonna do is jump right into all the ingredients for stuffed crust pizza. I mixed the dough 24 hours ago. This morning around 8 o'clock, I made dough balls. That's what this is. And by the way, just so for the record, I want to just brag here. I made 3 dough balls. I didn't have a scale at home. I brought my dough container home with me. Literally brought my dough container home, pulled out 3. I wanted to make them all the same size-ish. I was going for around 275. All 3 dough balls within 2 grams by hand, which is incredible. What a skill. Useless skill that is, right? 282, 284, and 282 grams, all by feel. I'm doing it hundreds of times to keep it consistent. I was amazed with myself. But anyway, useless skill, by the way. So anyway, the dough was made 24 hours ago. So this is a 24-hour dough. We're going to jump right into making a stuffed crust pizza. I'm going to walk you through my process. We're going to bake it on our baking steel that's been preheating for the last hour. Stay tuned. I'll get to some questions with the pauses. Walk you through my process. So here's my surface, right? I get my cords out of the way there, so you guys can see what I'm doing. So I always take a little bit of flour, and of course my camera froze. Bear with me for 1 second here. There we go. There we go. All right. You guys see this? Cool. So I'm going to move this a little bit so you guys can see what I'm doing. I like to use flour and semolina flour as my on my countertop. Place my dough on so my dough doesn't stick. This is a 284-gram dough ball. Make them a little bit bigger because I want to compensate for the stuffed cheese, if you will. I just place my dough in the center, and I always coat both sides with the flour mixture, just so we can knock it off as we're baking, but I just don't want it to stick to my countertop. And now you can see how bubbly this is going to be, right? And lightly press. Look at that. Feels like a cloud, right? Isn't that beautiful? Because I'm doing a stuffed crust, I'm going to probably kind of pat the whole thing down. Look at those bubbles. Isn't that nice? And this dough, because it's been proofing for 3 hours, is now room temperature. And I might flip it over to knock some of that flour off, right? Look at that bubble. Isn't that cool? What do you think? Pop it? I might have to because of the stuffed cheese. So I'm gonna get this thing pretty good started. Now I'll pick up my knuckles and I'm just kind of lightly pulling and stretching. And gravity is really doing its work. I'm trying to work smoothly, consistently around the perimeter. I can shake it a little bit. You can see it's starting to grow a little bit, right? It's probably about 8 or 9 inches now. I can even do this on the edge. Let's try to move consistent so the dough stays the same consistency throughout. Isn't that nice? Be patient. Let's give it a little check. Isn't that pretty? Again, I'm gonna go a little bit thinner so I can get that crust nice and large for the cheese. And just be really patient. You can see that's looking nice, right? We'll get a little bit more stretch. I'm going to throw, because it's going to shrink a little bit, right? Because of my stuff. Look at that, nice. Isn't that beautiful? Gorgeous. This dough is smelling good. Gorgeous. And I'm going to try to even flatten these edges out because I'm going to really Want to fold those over after. I'm gonna pop my bubble. Sorry about that, anybody who's concerned. That's it. That's our dough. Isn't that beautiful? Look at those bubbles, those pockets, packed with flavor, right? One last stretch. And I'm going to build this on my pizza peel. I like these wooden peels, and I'm going to give this a little dusting with semolina flour and flour. Those are my ball bearings. Really important. This is, if you're new to making pizza at home, this peel wood is ideal versus metal because the wood absorbs some of the moisture. This semolina flour and the flour are like my ball bearings. I just place my dough on top of it. And this is our 12-inch peel, by the way. I'm gonna go overextend a little bit, right? So I can get that cheese on there. I like to build it right on my paddle. So for my cheese, I'm using low moisture mozzarella. Pretty good chunks, right? And I'm just gonna fold these over like that. I got this cheese from Trader Joe's. Anybody's asking? Maybe one more little piece here. Boom. All right, let's fold over. Make sure that's tucked in there nice. Because this cheese could bleed out, so I want to kind of roll and pinch, if you will. Again, there's no real science to this. Maybe there is. I should know about it. You can see how I'm doing this, just slowly turning it over. And now I really emphasize my pinch a little bit here. This is that cheese doesn't really bleed out too easy. It's okay if it does. I think it's still going to taste good. And I don't make this pizza that often at all. I haven't made it in a couple of years, but always beautiful. Isn't that nice? So now make sure I'm still sliding it. It's still sliding on my peel, which is awesome. Good on the cheese, right? Talk about tomatoes. I'm going to go with Bianco di Napoli tomatoes, right? Again, less is more. There's a lot of moisture in the sauce, and I do not want the sauce to seep through the crust. So I'm going to go a little light. Isn't that nice? A little parm reg underneath. I got some fontina here. A little fontina. Good. And I'm going to do some fresh mozzarella. Just going to break this by hand. A little couple of pieces here and there, right? Isn't that pretty? That enough cheese, you think? We got a lot of cheese. Let's go back. You can see I've got my stuffed cheese, sauce, more cheese. It's going to be incredible, right? So now I've got my oven preheating at 450 for the last hour. I might use the broiler just for a minute on this one, just for fun. I don't need to, but I'm gonna give it a little head start, not too long, because I want the cheese and the crust to melt. So let me, I'm gonna give you guys another view here of what I'm doing in the oven. So we'll go like this. You guys can see, I'm gonna switch my oven to broil. And go to broil. And I preheat my oven at 450 versus 500 for a reason. This is an electric monogram oven. It's beautiful. It works incredible. However, when I preheat at 500 and I switch it to broil, that broiler delays because the oven's, it's got sensors in it. It's super hot. It realizes it's super hot. So it's going to wait and back off a few minutes before it turns the broiler on. The hack, the secret, is to preheat it at 450. We're losing a little bit of heat on that steel, but not enough. It's very manageable. but I get that broiler to kick in almost instantaneously in an electric oven, which is like within a minute. You'll see when we launch, for me, I want that broiler, those coils red hot. It's an electric oven. A gas oven, typically they'll fire up a lot faster. They don't have the sensors. They'll just go on, which is also very nice. But for now, we're gonna go in the oven. You guys will see my broiler on. I'm gonna change the view for you guys to see what I'm doing here. Got my pizza. I need so I'm going armed in my oven, right? With the pizza in one hand, the peel in one hand. I've got a towel. I always have a towel in my hand. Key when making pizza. Isn't that pizza pretty, by the way? Isn't that gorgeous? So I open it up. You'll see I can slide my drawer out a little bit. Back of the peel to the back of the steel and just slide it off, right? And there you can see my broiler is on. It's ripping red hot. You see that? So I can close my oven and put my timer on for 1 minute. Boom. And then after 1 minute, I'm going to turn that broiler off and just go back to bake for about 3 or 4 more minutes, and we'll have our pizza made pretty fast. So let's get to some questions right now. I'd love to answer them. I hope you have some good ones. You guys always come up with good ones. Any tips for baking calzones on pizza steel with a 72-hour dough? Oh, so yes, very similar to what I just did, right? I just pinched it. Now calzones can, excuse me, a little cold. Calzones can bleed, like they can seep, like the cheeses and the sauces. So I just be very careful when you're closing those up. But you can also use parchment paper or a Silipat underneath to catch all that. And I do that if I'm making a stromboli typically, and it's like the first thing I'm making that night, I will typically use parchment without the broiler, so I save my steel. It stays nice and clean. If you make your calzone first, and I'm gonna turn the broiler off. If you make your calzone first and you make a mess in your oven, it's very hard to clean it. So be mindful of that. Be mindful. Let's go take a peek inside I want to show you guys what I'm looking at. I turned the broiler off, so it should be going off in a second, but you can see I got some color already on top here, which is really cool. And now my broiler is off. So I'm gonna leave it on my steel and just finish baking this. That's pretty. For about another 3 or 4 minutes. Let's do 3. No, I'll do 4. What the heck? This will be a 5-minute pizza altogether. I'm trying to slow it down just because we've got all that cheese and that broiler off. It'll help prevent that thing from getting too dark. Could you add spinach to the stuffed portion of, that's a great idea. Like my necklace, by the way. Spinach, yeah, you can add anything. Like I'm doing cheese, raw spinach would be great in there. It would probably pair well with that melted cheese. It would be a nice texture as well. It's a great idea. How far away? So Ann, I have my oven set the rack on the second to the broiler. And to me, that's about 7 inches. I have the advantage of this oven. They have these beautiful racks that slide out. They're amazing. So they slide out, really helping me with that launch. If I don't have sliding racks, that's why you got to be mindful that I can get my peel inside that oven, no problem, or enough room, if you will. So I find it to be about 7 inches. Typically, that's a second rack from the top. And is that convection oven? Is there any option to run convection all the time? Do you recommend available? Stan, great question. Yes. So this is a convection oven. I bake convection 100% of the time. It's a habit. All that is the fan in the back, and it just blows air. So it makes it nice, steady heat. So even if I'm baking cookies at 350, I'm using convection. I don't adjust my temperature at all. It might adjust my time, but my temperature will stay the same. Again, for pizza, cookies, pies, I always use it. If you store your yeast in the freezer and don't use it at all, do you discard it if past the expiration? Great question, Roberto. If I'm not sure what to do, I'll try it. I might make a small batch. You can remove it. You can put it in warm water and add it in, see if it bubbles up, see if it's still alive, and then you'll know in 5 minutes or not. So I might do that test if I'm freezing my yeast first. And the baking steel with Andrus's company is very nice and worth the cost. Oh, hi, Debbie. Thank you. You're nice. Thank you. Just to reiterate here, she said the baking steel with Andrus's company is very nice and worth the cost. Yeah. By the way, we are the guys that created the baking steel. We invented it here. It's amazing. We have a lot of people that are making or similar, trying to be us, but they're not. So Mark, these gliding oven racks are spectacular, Mark. I couldn't agree more. Thank you, Monogram. They're amazing. They're on bearings. So I think you might want to remove them if you're doing a cleaning cycle because they got some lube on them. However, I use mine all the time. They're phenomenal. I really recommend. And that oven's pizza's almost done. So no, Roberto, it will not affect the flavor. It should be fine. If it still activates, I'm guessing it's fine. It will not. I've used expired yeast often. Usually what happens, it starts to die down after the expiration date, but since you froze it, it probably extended the life. That's my guess. I use convection for everything but cakes. I have heard it could dry them out. Oh, interesting, Vicky. I'm not a baker, so I probably misspoke. I don't bake cakes. I have, just not in a long time. So that's a great question. I'll have to research that one. All right, let's take a look in the oven again here. We're just about done. All right, so here's it. Here we go, the moment of truth, right? Look at that, timer's off. Dismiss that. So it's peak. Oh my goodness. Does that look pretty or what? Oh my goodness. So at first check, you can see, oh, you can't see that. Underneath is good, right? That awesome looking. Beautiful, right? Gorgeous. So now take this, close it off, keep my oven going. You guys can see this, right? It's got really nice colors. Really pretty. I'm going to show this on here again. I want to do this for you. So you can see exactly what I'm looking at. Isn't that pretty? I don't want to flip it over, but you can see some cheese started leaking out on the sides a little bit. I didn't do a great job pinching it, but come on, are you kidding? Wow, does that look good? Who wants to come to Grand Rapids and have a slice with me, right? Anybody? Anybody? Any more questions here? I need to get a pizza peel. Thank you. All right, so let's go. I have an issue. Once I lift the dough up to stretch it, ends up holes mostly in the middle. I do the full 72 hour. Is it possible my water to dough ratio is off? Elizabeth, let me get some back to me here. Sorry. The pizza's better. Pizza, pause for this thing. It's gorgeous underneath. Oh man, isn't that pretty? We'll cut into the cheese a little bit too. The dough. So I would do some follow-up questions to that. If your dough is ripping, my instincts say your flour is weak. I wonder what kind of flour it might be. Some flours do not hold up really well to 72 hours. So if you could let me know, that would be the first question I would have. I need to get a pizza peel. Angela, yeah, the peels are awesome. This is our 12-inch peel. I use it for all my pizzas. It's very handy, manageable. They're awesome. I highly recommend them. Oh, and by the way, I'm giving away something today at the end of class too. It's gonna be a steel, a baking steel for somebody. I need to get, that looks incredible. Thanks, Vicky. It looks so good. It smells, the aroma. Oh my goodness, right? Oh my God, it's amazing. I wish I could eat through the screen. Come on over, Ashley. I got plenty. Would you say that's a 12-inch pie? Yeah, this is probably, it's heavy. My peel is 12 inches, so it's probably 10 inches because I started out that way, then I folded over, so I lost some of the size. But yeah, it's great. Seth, I typically do, I'm not even sure if I'd rotated or not. I might have rotated midway through, but typically I do. The things I look for, I'm gonna show you just up top down here so you can see, excuse me, is the coloring, right? Because I have convection. I thought my color was pretty consistent, so I didn't really tend to rotate it much. which I liked. Typically, the back might get a little darker. Like this is probably the back of the oven here versus the front. It might get a little darker, which is why I'll spin it inside the oven. This one seemed fine, so I kind of left it the way it was. But it looks great, right? But great question. All right. Would you say that's a 12-inch pie? Okay, and then slice. Come on over, Terry. What is the ideal thickness size? So Ryan, great question. You know, I get flour all over me. We have 1/4-inch, 3/8, which is our griddles, and in fact, we also have 1/2 inch. We might have 1/2 inch again soon. Working on it. With that said, if you invited me to your house, and you had very special guests, and you wanted to make the perfect pizzas, what I would bring with me if I was invited, and I was invited to make the pizzas, I would bring my 1/4-inch steels. I'd bring 2 of them. I want to have one on the top rack and one on the bottom rack. 1/4-inch is plenty of mass to make pizza, and like you see, this is a thick crust, melted cheese. We baked it in under 5 minutes, right? With the broiler for a minute, 4 minutes total bake time. 5 minutes total bake time. That's phenomenal. The second pizza will be just as quick as the first, maybe even faster. If I used a 1/2 inch version, I might shave 20 seconds off the time, right? It might rebound faster for the next pizzas. But to me, that extra weight of carrying that extra weight is not really worth it. I think the 1/4-inch is plenty. That's my opinion on it. And I've made thousands of pizzas. I've used lots of different steels. I can use any steel. And if you invited me over to make pizzas, I'm bringing the 1/4-inch. All right. I'm wondering how many available slots for racks you have in your oven. Did I hear you say a second from the top? But I want to just to clarify where you put the rack in for breads. So let's go look inside my oven. Let's do this. I'm going to show you guys. Oops, inside my oven. Open her up. I've got to get my rag here. So I've got 2 steels. This, you can see, I can point here, right on top here. I've got one, you see my finger here? I've got one rack, I go a little higher, but this gap right here is probably about 5 inches from top to the steel. I could go a little higher, but again, the advantage I have with these racks slide out, so I can get it in and out pretty easy. I also have this steel on the bottom rack. Total, I have like 1, 2, like it looks like 5 racks in here, maybe 6. Now, if I'm making breads, I'm going to use this steel down here, right? This is perfect for me. I've got enough room in here for expansion, for growth. I could go 1 rack lower as well, but for me, that provides like a nice, typically I'm making multiple pizzas. I'll start on top and then go to the bottom, and I'll put another one on top and I'll go to the bottom. I'll continue that cycle, but that's my oven setup. That makes sense. Cool. All right, so back to me. That's my oven. I hope that answers that. And then Francine, when will the dough containers be back? Francine, they are back in stock. In fact, I'm just figuring out how I can get them to distribution. They'll be back online within a week. We just got them in, thankfully. I love them. These dough containers right here, guys. You can see this lid is nice because I can travel with this. I can just kind of carry it like a suitcase without a handle, right? Just carry it like this. I can put it in my car. It's great. They really come in handy for many things. Also for mixing my doughs as well. They're great. Hope that answers that. Yes, Roberto. Yes, we'll be in the studio for a group panel during live class. Come on over. If you guys are in Grand Rapids, we're gonna be doing live classes in here in the next, I'm setting it up now. Be doing 1 or 2 a month. We did one last Friday. It was amazing. It's so fun. They're great. So the 1/2 inch, tough it lift. It's staying put, yeah, Stan, 1/2 inch. So the baking steel original is 15 pounds, super heavy. The big we call is like 30 pounds, heavier. That stays in the oven. You don't be moving that thing around too much. Yeah, Marta, great call. The board, like these boards, Now, traditionalists might hesitate to slice on them. I have done hundreds of pizzas on my peels, and I slice and serve with my peels. I have multiple. So instead, if I'm having like even my pizza class, I will serve pizzas on the peels because it's less things to clean up at the end of the night. I can clean them on the go. I don't have plates to put in the dishwasher. These are my serving trays as well. Cheese platters, etc. They're amazing. That's great. Hello, me, ha. Tasa. My pizza never looks like that. I brought the flour from Tony Gimignani. Have you tried it? Yes, Tasa. You're probably talking about Central Milling. He has a flour there. I think it's his 00 flour. If it's not getting the color, are you fermenting it for 2 or 3 days? That does seem to make a difference. And then if you have any pictures, send them to me on email and I can walk you through the steps, diagnose, and help you out. And Adrian's asking, I think you've suggested using 2 baking steels and switch to lower level to continue to bake. Notice today you did not. Yes, great question, Adrian. Good observation too, really good. I did that intentionally because I sometimes will be in class making one pizza and using 2 steels. And I don't want, like, that's not my habit. Like I want to emphasize, you only need 1 baking steel. So sometimes I forget. My traditional method is using 2 steels, even for 1 pizza. But you don't need 2 steels. I don't want to be like, hey, you need to have 2 steels. So today I was consciously and mindfully using 1 steel. The broiler I just turned off after a minute so it wouldn't get too dark. I think in the class a couple of weeks ago, I had the broiler on too hot. So my top was getting too dark. By going to the bottom steel, that protects the top color from getting too dark. But 1 steel is all that's needed. That makes sense. Awesome. Deborah, beautiful. I'm on the plane now. I will ask him if they can stop in Grand Rapids. Yes, come on over. That's great. Can you post the dough recipe? Yes, I can. Okay, can I post? So Susan, I'm going to give you the ingredients right here for everybody. 500 grams bread flour, 350 grams water, 16 grams sea salt, and 1 gram active dry yeast. You mix and knead, and then cover and rest for 24 hours. That's it, 24 hours minimum. We want the 24 hours because that breaks down the gluten, making this bread easy to digest. I want to emphasize that too. By fermenting our breads, the gluten, which are very strong proteins, break down in 24 hours, making this much easier on our bodies to digest. I had another person from our class Friday night that came and is very gluten sensitive. Didn't want to have any alcohol, wanted to give us a real test. I found out yesterday that she had the pizza and had no stomach issues, right? So again, this happens often. People with gluten sensitivities, when they eat fermented breads, it goes away. Amazing, right? So always ferment your breads and your doughs a minimum of 24 hours. Makes a huge difference. Can you put the ingredient measurements in the chat? I think I just did that. I don't have the equivalent of cups because the recipe was designed to be measured with by weight. So you need to really measure it by weight. That's why we did that. That's it. Thanks, Peter. Thanks for re-emphasizing that. Have you made sourdough starter instead of yeast? Yes, Susan, we do. I don't even have a starter in my studio here. I've spent a lot of time with starters. They're great. I substitute in, if my recipe calls for 500 grams of flour, I will take away 50 grams of flour and 50 grams of water and add 100 grams of starter in instead of the yeast. That seems to be perfect to activate it. They should be there. Peter just reposted it too. I can't see the, there we go. Thank you, Terry. Have you added vital? Oh, great question. Adrian's asking, have I ever added vital wheat gluten to flour to increase the total protein? Yes, great question. Vital wheat gluten is a product. It's basically, like Adrian just said, it's like adding protein to your flour. I have added it. It does strengthen the flour. So in other words, I don't know. Someone asked me earlier about the flour. I forget who it might have been. Um, the the dough was getting holes in it from stretching it out. Well, I said the protein was not, maybe likely not strong enough in that particular flour. So Vital Wheat gluten is a product you can buy. You can buy a 5-pound bag of it or a pound bag for short money. You can add like a tablespoon in to your recipe, and that strengthens the glutens. I have used it with some weaker flours, and it seemed to help with the longer fermentations. Yes, so I have used it. I don't typically use it though. So now I typically buy a flour that has a good protein content. That makes sense. And the flour I'm using in class is from a company called Central milling.com. Get rid of that. If anybody wants to check on that link, I use their organic high mountain bread flour. I love it. For 24-hour or 72-hour ferment, use the refrigerator for cold ferment. Oh, Michael, good question. Michael's asking, so today I made a 24-hour dough. I made this dough yesterday. In fact, I've got some left over. So this is going to go in the fridge tonight, right? I've got extra dough. That'll go in the fridge. So this right here is a 24-hour ferment. Tomorrow, if I make pizza, it'll be a 48-hour. It might be a little bit better, right? And 72 hours may be ideal. 24 hours for me, I do 24 hours at room temperature, then go to the fridge. And again, in the summer when it's like sweltering hot, let's say I'm in my studio, but I'm not here. I don't keep the AC on if I'm not here. It might get up to 75, 76 degrees. So it might go faster at a higher temp. Room temperature to me is about 70 degrees. So in the summer, do 12 hours instead of 24 and then the fridge. That makes sense. Just improvise. That's cool. Anybody else have any questions? This is great. You guys are amazing. Anybody? No? All right, cool. Oh, and fermentation in the dough. I'm following all your videos in class. Oh, you're fermenting dough. I love it, Tessa. That's great. Adrian's asking, any thoughts on adding diatostic malt? Yeah, great question. I know Tony does that for some of his recipes, and it's a great idea, especially for those shorter ferments, the 24 hours. You can add some malt, which will add some nice flavor back into your dough. And some people even, if I know I'm making 24-hour dough, I might add a little sugar in there just to speed up the process of flavor. I do like King Arthur. King Arthur makes great flours. I like their organic bread flour a lot. It's great. Are you buying your Central Milling flour from a distributor or direct from them? Yes. So Mike, great question. I buy it direct from them. I don't get a special discount. Now I do the math. I buy one bag of, I buy usually 25 or 50 pounds, sometimes 5 pounds, depending on the flour and the time. If I calculate all the shipping costs, which is exuberant, the bag costs $15, the shipping costs $15. Well, that's $30 but now I divide that by the amount of pizzas I can make. I can maybe make 15 pizzas, so my cost is like $2 a dough. So yeah, it's more expensive than just going to the market, but relatively, it's still inexpensive compared to getting pizza out. But now I'm controlling the controllables, which are the ingredients. And I can't emphasize enough how important it is to use organics. I just love their flours. I think they work beautifully. They cook beautifully. They work beautifully with the baking steel in a home oven at 500 degrees. That's the testing I've done, and it's remarkable. In fact, that's all I have in here. It's all I ever use. Not always. There's some other great flours too. Farm 2 flour is another great brand I've been using. There's a lot, and we should cover more of them. I do use their bread flour, the High Mountain bread flour. Yes. Okay. Other than recommended on using sugar, don't use every time you activate. So, Roberto, if I'm using a sourdough, I think that's what you're getting at there. To use little every time to, if I'm using sugar, I don't do anything different. I just whisk my ingredients in separately. I don't know. I'm not quite sure what you're asking there. If you could maybe jump in there again, Roberto, I'll try to do a better job answering for you. Yeah, the pizza looks good. Awesome. All right, I'm giving away a baking steel just because I feel like it. You guys, the baking steel, anybody that doesn't know, I'm the guy that created it. It's fucking awesome. Pardon my language. It's amazing. It's an incredible piece of equipment. Made them at my family business. We still make them my family business in Hanover, Massachusetts. And it works so well in a home oven. It just stores that energy so great. I should tell more about the story another time, but if anybody needs to know, just email me. Happy to do it. All right. Mike Shoemaker. Mike, you are the winner today of a baking steel. Let's go, baby. Hey, Mike, give me an email if you can after class today, and we'll get you hooked up. It is. Thanks, Elizabeth. I slipped there. Hope YouTube doesn't nip me on that one, right? That's awesome. Yeah, they're great. And anybody ever had any question? Yeah, it's a really cool story, guys. I love it. I love my life. I'm so grateful that I took that leap and came up with this product and have a great team around me. This is all that we do. It's amazing. It's a product that was based on my life stories. It's great. Thank you guys for being here. Amazing. Always. We'll be back in March for a couple of more. I think we're going to do some pita bread. Someone requested that. If you have any special requests for class, please give me a shout. Love to do it. Awesome, guys. Thank you.